Hello, welcome to VR Roundtable, and this is our very special episode. This is episode 67, and this is our Game of the Year Awards. Now, this is obviously VR Game of the Year Awards. It's not just general Game of the Year. So, we're going to go through. Last year, we had a really extended show. It went on for about 3 hours. We had to take a break in the middle and carry on. And last year, there was only three of us, Anthony, Steve, and I, doing the show. So now Chris has joined us. We didn't want it to drag on for 4 hours this year. So what we've done, we've eliminated a few categories, we've changed it around a little bit. And what you're going to be watching this episode is all of us just explain the consensus between all of us. So we've all got this spreadsheet in front of us where we've all taken votes on different categories, and then we've got a final game which has made the top of each category, and we're each going to sort of talk about that a little bit. Okay, so I guess we can pass it over to Steve. You're going to sort of guide us through some of these categories this week. Why don't you go ahead?
Alrighty, guys. So our first announcement is our number 5 game. Let me tell us how we're doing this. So we've all voted individually for our top 5 games from each service. That's Steam, PlayStation Network, and the Oculus service. And then we've created a top 5 for each of those services, and then we've also created a overall top 5. So we're going to run those backwards 5-1 for each kind of category, and we've also kind of mixed in some other, like best shooter, best graphics, that sort of thing. So we're going to start off with our SteamVR top 5, and number 5 is Jing: The Land Beyond. So Anthony, go ahead and talk about that game if you want.
Yeah, so Zing: The Land Beyond, man, this is a great. It kind of came out of nowhere, really, because we knew about this game, we heard about this game, but we were not prepared for it to be this good, and we ended up getting a code for it. We all tried it. And just being inside the world, really, it's the atmosphere of it. It's like the island, the mystery, the music. You'll just get a good feeling when you'll play this game, is what I feel like. The puzzles start out maybe a little bit too easy, but it picks up pretty quickly. What do you have to say, Gary? I know you like this one.
Yeah, I agree with your last point there, actually, Anthony. That it starts off very easy, and I was thinking, is this it? But as you progress through that game, you really do sort of get some tough ones, and it took me a while actually to get through a few. I ended up sort of taking the headset off and just thinking that out of frustration in some cases, and then putting it back on, and then I got through the puzzle. But yeah, Zing, I mean, it looks fantastic. There's so much to say about this game because, as you say, it did come out of nowhere really, but it definitely struck me as one of my Game of the Year, and because when you're in that world, everything you really feel like you're in that world more than a lot of other games. It's the clarity of everything and just the environmental graphics. I think the environment looks great. And because you're exploring it, it's a very meandering game. You're exploring it at your own pace. You can take your time. It's a nice, relaxing game as well. So yeah, it's a great one for me too.
Yep, and I was really sort of surprised by the game. Like, didn't really know much about it, and then it came, and a lot of people were talking about it, and it's just a really good explorative game, and it has a unique mechanic. I mean, it's ultimately a puzzle game at its core, but it's got a unique mechanic in that it explores the nighttime and the daytime dynamic, and you got to do certain tasks at night and other tasks during the day in order to kind of work yourself through an area. And I just thought it was pretty great.
Wait, real quick.
Go ahead.
The story of it too, it almost has like this inspirational kind of like story and stuff. Like there is a story that goes on in this game, even though it's a simple puzzle game. You go to these fountains, and there's like these like messages of knowledge that it bestows on you, and it's like an introspective game. You're almost going to get a little bit of a meditation experience while you're playing a puzzle game, which is super cool.
Yeah, it is very calming. It's isolating in such a way, and that is true. But moving on, our next game is going to be the number 5 game on PlayStation VR, and that is actually we have a two-way tie for number 5, and we had no reasonable way of resolving that tie. But I'm going to start off with Super Hot VR. Gary, I know you maybe haven't played it yet on PlayStation VR, but I know you've played Super Hot, so you want to tell us about that game?
Yeah, so Super Hot. I mean, everybody's heard of this. I think it was a Kickstarter originally, this game, but they did promise VR within that Kickstarter. And originally, when the game came out, it was just a 2D game, and everybody was saying, "Where is VR on this?" So when they eventually released it, it was sort of anticipated. It was really anticipated, and it didn't disappoint. It wasn't the full Super Hot game within virtual reality. It was sort of a few missions that you could do, and they did it in such an exceptional way. To me, this is one of the. I think it's a fantastic game as like a first demo, a first entrance into VR. You can show this to people and they'll instantly understand it, but it's got some interesting mechanics in it. So time only progresses when you move. So the faster you move, the faster time progresses. And it's a very simple mechanic, but it makes for an incredible virtual reality game. And I think more so than just a flat game, if I'm being honest, that the fact that your individual body motions, just the turning of your head or the slight motion of your head, you can see the world progress in time. And it all works towards making these levels puzzles more than it is a shooter. It's a puzzle game. And I think this has been said a lot about it. It's a puzzle game, working your way through, deciding which part you have to go to first. In order to get the time to progress in such a way that you're able to complete this scene. So yeah, Super Hot. I've not played it on the PSVR, but I think from all reports it stands up and it's equal to exactly the same really to the version I played on my Oculus Rift. Chris, what do you think of Super Hot?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really great just because it always plays to all the strengths of PSVR. Like the graphics are already kind of, simple in nature, and then as well as that, like it's really set up for front facing, so it just really does play well to PSVR's strengths. And I think like people with PSVR don't really notice that much of a difference compared to playing it on PC VR. So I think that's probably why it's in the top 5 for PSVR.
Yep, and deservedly so. We don't have a sort of a best demo category this year, and if we did, I would have to think Super Hot would be in it, because I know I've showed a lot of people who don't have VR that's kind of been over at the house, and Super Hot's one of those that doesn't need much explanation, other than when you move, time moves, and like once they get that, it's kind of, sort of, it embodies what VR does well with the whole motion controller aspect and placing you in the environment. Our second game that tied with Super Hot was Static. Now, Static is a game that really caught me by surprise. I absolutely loved it, and this is a seated game. You play it just with a DualShock, but it has such a clever puzzle mechanic to it, and it just looks gorgeous. And I've got a couple of friends that have picked up PlayStation VR here this holiday while it's been on sale, and I've recommended Static to both of them. I'm like, guys, you got to try this. You'll really like it. It just does something really cool, really unique, and it was without question one of my favorite PlayStation VR games this year. Anthony, I know you ran through this one as well.
Yeah, Static, man. You know what the best thing about Static is the world that you're in is so simple and so basic. Like you're in this office, you have this guy looking at you, the walls and everything, and you're sitting in a chair, you're holding something, your hands are encased in something. And that's the perfect idea. Now, unfortunately, you can't keep doing games where you're sitting in a chair holding something. So this doesn't work for everybody going forward, but it's just beautiful puzzle game. The intricacy of the device that you're holding in your hand. I mean, you can pull it up close to you. You can look close at it. You see all these little levers, all these things moving. It's incredible. I mean, the detail is just marvelous and great puzzle game, but it can get kind of hard. I'm still stuck in it, actually.
Yeah, I beat it. Now, Gary, you got your PlayStation VR this week. I think I've told you more than once, Static should be one of the first ones you run through. So as the holidays carry on over the next couple of weeks, make sure you play this one and let us know what you think. Moving on, we're going to get to our Oculus number 5, and that is going to be The Mage's Tale. I'm going to send it back to Anthony.
Yeah, The Mage's Tale it's really a dungeon crawler, and like I can criticize it in certain ways in that you're mostly like throwing things and using your shield and stuff, and so it can be a little bit simple from that standpoint. But it's just the detail of everything. Graphically, it's probably one of the best VR games we've seen. It has great storyline and actual spoken dialogue. The production value is there. Music is good. It does kind of go to these same musical beats whenever you're like if I was going to criticize it, there is this situation where like you all of a sudden get slammed with a wave of enemies, and it goes to a certain musical beat when that happens. But it's still a magical game. Like just exploring the world of the Mage's Tale is beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think because some of these games, before doing the show last night, I went in and just sort of replayed a few of them just to sort of get a fresh perspective on them. I didn't actually do that with Mage's Tale, unfortunately. So I'm going back a few months here from when I last played it. And yeah, the graphics were sort of a standout thing for me on this game, but also just the having magic abilities in VR is something that's really incredible. So having like this shield, this magical shield that you can generate at any time to throw fireballs and stuff like that at the enemies, it's great for VR. The only thing, I mean, for Mage's Tale, it felt very samey, at least the amount I played of it. So it's a dungeon crawler, and you're literally going through dungeons. The environment doesn't change a great deal. It's not like, I mean, for me, even Vanishing Realms, you'll have sections where you go outside, and I don't know, maybe you do have sections in Mage's Tale later on where you do sort of get more vistas to look at. But yeah, Mage's Tale was a great game nevertheless.
Yeah, I think all of us were kind of looking for something with narrative in it, and it was really cool to have the spoken aspect, because I don't think that was seen a lot in VR when this came out. It was like one of the first things to really do that.
Yep, I remember when it came out, I was like really high on it because it was one of the better games at just kind of delivering me in a place. And I remember in the very beginning, and you kind of come along that Zeus looking statue, and it had that, you know, it was like 60 foot tall, it was a massive statue, and it looked gorgeous, and it was just a really refined and polished game. And it came out before we had a lot of those really polished games, and it stood out. And the one critique I would kind of sort of make of it is that it did get repetitive. I didn't complete it. I played through many of the levels and I never got outside. But as you mentioned, Gary, also being sort of a spell casting type game, it kind of works really well with VR, where the controls that we have are just kind of natural and really well for throwing fireballs and things like that. So moving on. Now, we talked about Mage's Tale and the quality graphics, so I'm going to move into our Best Graphics Award. And unfortunately, that's not going to Mage's Tale. It's going to go to Lone Echo. Lone Echo, it had fantastic graphics, like that's sort of Radiant Dawn. That's sort of their forte. They make gorgeous looking games, and one of the things that really just stands out to me with that game is as you, Jack, in one of your many embodiments, as you were exposed to radiation, your arms and everything would start to be corroded, and it would just look really neat. And then you would get into you would transplant your memory into a new body, and you would look fresh and new again. And almost every time I did that, I would look down at my hands and sort of marvel at the freshness, and other times when you come across your old body, you could kind of see how corroded and horrible it looked. But overall, graphically, this was a fantastic game. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this game really played on the custom engine. Like, they had this custom engine that was, you know, they used in their studio, and it really went well with VR. And they were really good at optimizing. That hasn't happened a lot this year. Like, a lot of these games that we've played haven't been that well optimized, and like Lone Echo really showed what could be done with the current hardware. Like, I didn't think my computer was that good. You know, I have a 980, but I could still play Lone Echo, and it looked fantastic. So it's really amazing what this studio's done with optimizing their graphics and their engine to make such a beautiful game.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of concur with what you have both said on this. And Steve, just on the point of the hands, that's one point that I noticed as well. You know, whenever you get into these new bodies of your character, you look down and everything is so detailed. It's not just that it looks clear within the Rift, everything is so detailed. You've got these individual moving parts on your hand, so you press the grip controls or anything like that on, and you see all these little moving parts of the mechanism of his fingers actually moving. It's incredible, really. I think it's and also just on the point of the characters, because as you say, Radiant Dawn are sort of known for this kind of thing, that they're great at graphics, and the NPC who you interact with is another standout point. So I've got two standout points that really make me consider this game's best graphics, is because the embodiment of you, your character, and your hands, but also the NPC who you interact with, she looks incredible in VR, and just the power of having an NPC who you interact with that looks as lifelike as they do. It really sort of explains the power of VR. And the final thing in terms of graphics is the vistas. When you get outside the space station and you see Saturn in the distance, it still suffers from the things that a lot of VR games do in terms of graphics. It's sort of the low resolution really makes an impact in those kind of scenes, but even so, they still did it in such a good way. Yeah, great. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes down to Olivia for me. It's like that is the most. There's times when you'll look at her and she's talking to you and she's looking at you because they know where your head is, so they could have her look basically at you, and you feel like she's the closest thing to a living human character that we've seen so far. And it just gives us a glimpse of the future. Imagine that kind of character with like more legitimate AI where you're really having a conversation with them. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous, but they're pushing these boundaries. It's one guy had a thread on Reddit saying he was disappointed by the lack of respect that Lone Echo has gotten, really. And I kind of agree with that when you consider this was the closest thing we got to an interactive movie, and the graphics were a huge part of it.
Alrighty, moving on. Now I'm going to transition into our overall. Now the overall category is not based on any platform, completely platform agnostic, and our overall number 5 game is Resident Evil 7, and that was pretty much carried by me because I had it ranked so high. What can I say? You know, I've kind of cheered for it all year long. I've actually, not said that much about it. I just sort of give it a woot woot every time it comes up. But man, this game. If I think of and I probably shouldn't talk about it too much because it's going to come up again, but it's one of my best all-time moments of gaming ever. Not just VR, ever. There's a few key moments, maybe 5 to 10 moments that really sort of stick with you for a lifetime, and playing Resident Evil 7 in VR is one of those moments. So I'm not going to say anything else about it. We're going to move into our SteamVR, unless any of the other guys. You guys don't play it as much as I do. I'm assuming you don't have anything to say.
I played it yesterday, actually, out of the blue, and I know that I need to get back and play that game. But it's dealing with that guy, the main guy that comes after you, and just the constant terror of him just terrorizing you. And it just, sometimes I feel like I don't want to go back into the game. But man, playing it yesterday, I realized I got to go back at it.
Awesome. I hope you do. And Gary, please let me know what you think as you continue to play the game. Just getting into it. Moving back into SteamVR. Our number 4 SteamVR game is the Talos Principle VR. I'm going to send it back to Anthony because I know you really like that game.
Yeah, so the Talos Principle VR, it's almost like if I criticized it, I would say there's too much game here. There's too much good stuff. A lot of people want Portal in VR, and the Talos Principle VR, there is a lot of Portal-esque things about it in terms of the way that you're solving these puzzles. You have to connect different things, and then it unlocks something else up, and you realize, oh, that will unlock that, but now that other door is closed. And it's one of these mind-bending puzzle games, and it dances that line between frustration and elation. Like when you solve a puzzle, when you grab that Tetris piece at the very end and it makes that noise and you see it hit your wrist and all of that, that is just really super awesome. But at the same time, you could just be banging your head against the wall and you start to feel like you're an idiot or something because the puzzles just get kind of complex, but it's outstanding, and there's just so much game to it. And I don't know if this will still be going on when you guys see this show, but this is $20 right now, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, when I think of Talos Principle, and I haven't spent as much time with it as I would like, it is a lot of game, as you said, and it's one reason it deserves to be on this list is for its immense value proposition. Like, it's like you said, it's on sale right now for $20, but even at its initial launch price of $39.99, it still represents a very good value in VR. But it's also, it sort of embodies that full real game feel to it. It doesn't feel like an arcadey indie developed demo that was sort of stretched out to be a game. This is a full experience, and we don't have a lot of those in VR. And the Talos principle, and it's really coming from Crow Team, who, man, they've really put a lot into VR. So much respect to those guys, and I think this most certainly belongs on the list. Gary.
Yeah, I think it definitely belongs in the list because Crow Team have done such an exceptional job as a developer over since VR has launched. Really, you've got the Serious Sam games and all of these things, and they put in so many options that pleases all the fans. You know, you've got locomotion options, you've got graphics options as well in there. And again, I haven't spent anywhere close to the amount of time this game deserves. I went in there a couple of times, and there's too much to play. I want to get back to it. This is on my list. I've got so many games that I want to get back to, and just thinking about it now, this is probably a game that I might get to after the show. You know, I'm trying to get back and over this Christmas period to get to some of the games that I really haven't spent enough time with. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add because, like you, it's one of those games I really do want to play more of because when I did first get into it, I was a little bit overwhelmed with how much there was to do. So I agree with everything you guys have said, and I definitely want to play that more when I get time.
Awesome. So moving on, we are now at our PlayStation VR number 4 game, and that is Megaton Rainfall. Megaton Rainfall is sort of one of the dreams of VR. Like, you get to be sort of the Superman, and Megaton Rainfall is sort of an indie developed game, and had a lot of hype around it, and most people, I would say, really liked the game. I know I really liked it. There were some things to kind of critique for it, but sticking with sort of an idea of the Talos principle in value, Megaton Rainfall launched really cheap, just had a really unique and just felt really good, and it's one of my more memorable PlayStation games this year. It's not perfect, it's sort of simple, but damn if it wasn't good. Gary, have you checked it out on your PlayStation VR yet?
I have, yeah. This is one of the ones that I was really looking forward to trying as soon as I got my PSVR. So yeah, I went in there. I've only played it once so far. Again, I've not had a great deal of time with the PSVR, but it's great. You know, I've played only a couple of levels so far, a couple of missions, I should say. The thing that stands out for me is actually the scale of the hands. Are you supposed to be some kind of giant or something? Because the scale of hands in proportion to the world just feels like I'm like this giant character for some reason. Maybe it's just me. But yeah, it was a little bit odd, that was. But other than that, the gameplay itself is really sort of compelling. You know, you want to carry on and get a better score because part of this game revolves around the fact that you're affecting human lives. It's a really weird thing to say that if you don't eliminate these enemies quickly enough or not in the correct way, then you're damaging buildings and people are dying and you hear all their screams. So it just makes you want to go through the level again and try and do it slightly better so you get fewer deaths and do it in a more efficient way. But it's a great game from what I've played so far, and I'll definitely be getting back in there.
Okay, Anthony, do you want to say anything on that or move on?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just quickly, it is that War of the Worlds dream. The thing that I love most about Megaton Rainfall is the alien craft. Like, the aliens that you battle, the way they move, the way they sound, this dude freaking killed it. Supposedly, like, one guy made this game, and those alien enemies, that's the star of the show. I just love seeing the next alien enemy and how they move, and I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie. I thought that was awesome.
Yep. Okay, moving on, our Oculus number 4 game, and guys, I'm sort of surprised that it made its way in there because it's a very sort of polarizing game, but that is Wilson's Heart. Now, I personally absolutely love Wilson's Heart, but you know, as if you've been following the show, as you see, I sort of have a slightly different palette than I'd say the bulk of the VR gamers, and I like really narrative-driven games that really present its visuals and its ambiance to me, and I focus on on that sort of thing more than I do controls, which is important because Wilson's Heart was very polarizing in its control method because it featured a sort of a node-locked teleport mechanic where you couldn't freely teleport around. And at the time, people were kind of coming off a teleport as a whole and was wanting smooth locomotion, but this game went the other direction. It kept the teleport, but made it even worse in that you couldn't even teleport where you wanted to. That aside, though, it had some really cool visuals, a really cool presentation, a very interesting narrative with the whole monster, theme going back to the sort of the black and white films. The whole game was presented in black and white, and when the game come out, I really just couldn't stop playing it. Like it really grabbed me. And again, I didn't focus too much on the problems at hand and what a lot of people were saying, but it's one of my standout games for the whole year, honestly.
Yeah, like I don't usually like horror games, but this was one of the horror games that I actually kept going back to despite it being terrifying at some points for me at least. But man, like this was one of the, like you said, one of the first really good story-driven games. And like, oh my gosh, once you start meeting people in that game, it was so great. It felt so real. We just need more of that in VR. So this was really kind of the first taste of that for me. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I don't think I got to finish it ever, but like it's a great game. The best horror game in my opinion.
Yeah, I was very, very skeptical of Wilson's Heart because I'd read a lot about it and I'd seen some videos about it before it came out. So I went in, I guess, with sort of the right attitude because I knew it was node-based teleportation. I knew the kind of game it was immediately. And going in there, it surprised me in the sense that I just found that I wanted to keep playing it. This is for me because it came out earlier on this year. I was thinking as soon as I finished Wilson's Heart, I was thinking this is potentially game of the year for me. And at that point, it really was. And all the way through, as we've gone through these past months, and all of these new games have continued to come out, I'm constantly thinking back to Wilson's Heart because I didn't want to forget it. And Wilson's Heart for me is absolutely one of the best games this year. It's the narrative element is so well done. The graphics are so well done. The graphical style that they've gone for is so well done, and just the fact that it's placing you. I think everything is just come together so well in that game. It's a complete game that is fully realized. This world is fully realized. It's black and white. It's almost like a 1950s B movie that you're playing through, and it's almost to the point of at the end. They've almost done too much, in some of the final scenes, and I won't spoil anything, but everything comes together in such a way that you think this is just, it sort of blew me away, the final scenes of that. But yeah, a great game.
All right. So I'm going to actually break structure a little bit, and I didn't realize it until just now, but our number 4 overall game was also Wilson's Heart. So we've talked about it here, and I think we kind of summarized it. I didn't want to come back to it and repeat anything, but our number 4 Oculus Rift game and our number 4 overall game of the year for all of VR is Wilson's Heart. Anthony, I know you weren't as high on it as the rest of us. What do you got to say about this one?
You know what's weird is like when we first got Wilson's Heart and I was first playing it, I really got into it. Like I was okay with the fact that you can't go and, some people like that just immediately turns them off and they write the whole thing off. I'm okay with going from place to place. It's almost like a point and click adventure, like a modern day version of a point and click adventure in VR. However, the one negative thing I'll say on Wilson's Heart is since that game came out, so many other games have hit that have made a much bigger impression on me that honestly, and it's unfair to Wilson's Heart because I haven't completely finished the game. I got stuck like 75% of the way through it and then just never went back to it. So that's not fair on me. Maybe I finished the game and I'm in love with it. I don't know. But for some reason, it just doesn't like register with these other mega hits as far as I'm concerned. But that's just me.
Yep, that's fine. That's why we all have differing opinions. That's what makes the world go round. So, moving on, our best RPG game that came out relatively recent, sort of no surprise, almost a no-brainer, and that is Skyrim VR. This is a game that I have about 14 hours into, and I played it. The majority of it, I've honestly played with a gamepad, but I've done about a third of it or so with Move controllers, and I'm sort of wanting to force myself some with the Move controllers, but setting that aside, the control scheme is important, but everything else that they've done, and I'm sure we'll talk about the other Bethesda titles, as we will talk about the other Bethesda titles. This one was probably the smoothest. Like, it just kind of works out of the gate. It's kind of blurrier and it doesn't look as good as you would maybe like in some situations, but all in all, they delivered on the being in the world of Skyrim, being in Tamriel, and keeping with the idea of value, for the $60 asking price, which now you can get it on sale in a lot of places. You get a lot of playtime with your dollar. So really, this is a sort of a no-brainer, no question. Skyrim VR is fantastic, absolutely deserves to be best RPG and to be brought up in other spots, which we will. Gary, what are your thoughts? I know you've maybe you mentioned picking it up. I don't know if you've dabbled into it yet.
Only today. So I've done the opening section and I've got out into the world. So I'm just heading down to the first little village that you come to. Is it Riverdale? I think it's something like that. So I'm just heading down there at the moment. So it's too early to say, but I will say, first impressions are very good in spite of the graphics, because it is blurry and it's almost like, I feel like, on the PlayStation VR, and I'm playing it on a base PS4, so I don't know if it's got a pro patch or anything like that that increases the resolution slightly. Possibly it has, but for me, it looks a little bit like Fallout 4 VR on the base game in that. Possibly not even quite as good, but I don't know. I'd have to go back and forth and really compare them. But for me, it's a very similar kind of thing. With the PS4, because it is what it is, it doesn't bother me so much in that game. And I think they've done such a great job getting this game running in VR on that hardware. I'm very, very impressed. Still too early on to really comment on this, but I think it's great so far. Anthony, I know you've spent a lot of time in this anyway.
Yeah. I'll just say Skyrim VR, that's my number one PlayStation VR game of the year. And it came this close to my actual number one game of the year. I mean, it's right there. It's nipping at its heels. Skyrim VR, the thing about it is, okay, graphically, yeah, it can look horrible at times. You look at certain bushes and stuff, they're pixelated as hell. But you walk down the area and you come to a stream and the water is going along and you see like a white snow fox that's running around over there in the snow. And it just, that's the magical thing about it. And then it's this go anywhere world, and you discover new cities and it makes little noise, little dingling noises go off that are very pleasurable anytime you level up, anytime you do anything like that. And I'm playing the game as an archer with Move controls, and I had all these problems in the beginning, but it had nothing to do with the game. It was this reflection behind me. But playing as an archer and standing up and walking through the world of Skyrim, I feel like I'm there, man. The graphics, yeah, they're blurry and stuff, but what happens is 10 minutes later, you completely forget about that and you're lost in the world of Skyrim. It's almost too, still though, these Bethesda games, managing your inventory, even though this does work relatively well, that can still be a bit of a hassle. And it's almost like, I look forward to the day when Bethesda makes a VR game that was just completely VR from the absolute beginning, menus, everything,
Menus aren't a problem with a gamepad. Just throwing that out there. Moving on before you have a chance to respond. Our number 3 Steam VR game is The Gallery Episode 2, Heart of the Emberstone. I'm going to send it to Gary. I don't know if you ever completed the game. I know me and Anthony did.
No, I haven't, and for whatever reason, I can't even place my finger on why this hasn't grabbed me anywhere near as much as the first one. To me, the first one was linear, and you're progressing all the time. You're seeing new areas. With this one, from what I've played so far, you're constantly going backwards and forwards, and between going backwards and forwards, you're getting loading screens, and it's just pushing me away. I think the graphics look great, the gameplay is good, and there's certain things that they're doing with some of the puzzles in here as well that I think are great. But to be honest, I haven't got into it anywhere close to the amount I wanted to and I expected to. And I think a lot of the time we go into these games with a level of expectation, and I think that's why Doom VFR had such a bad reception from some people, and also Fallout 4 VR had such a bad reception from some people. And I guess that's why Gallery Episode 2 has got a bad reception from me, because I went in with such a high level of expectation and it didn't deliver so far. This is another one I'm going to go back to. I want to complete it because you guys have said that it's a great game, but it does have these problems.
I actually listed it as my personal number one Steam VR game, and part of that is because I sort of wanted to pay homage to the being made for VR aspect. Like, there are issues. It's not a perfect game. It doesn't have as much value as, say, the Talos Principle, but it is a built-up, made for VR game, and everything that it does, for the most part, works right. I would like to cut down on the loading scenes. I'd like to cut down on the back and forth, kind of revisiting the same places over and over. But outside of that, like, it is a very polished, excellent visuals. It does more right than wrong, and it's a good balance. If I had a friend that had picked up a Vive or a Rift and was wanting to have some games recommended, this is a type of game that I may recommend sort of over maybe Talos Principle, due to just the amount of commitment and the time that it takes to kind of run through a game. So Anthony, what are your kind of final year thoughts on Gallery Episode 2?
Yeah, so what I'll say about the Heart of the Emberstone is I had this as the best graphics. You guys all unanimously picked Lone Echo. I picked Heart of the Emberstone. Graphics are freaking awesome, in my opinion. Okay, and then sound design. We don't have sound design as a category this year, but this would win the sound design award. 3D sound, ridiculous. There are so many things about this game that fight you and make you not want to love it. But despite that, there were times I was in this game, this was like a movie. I go back to, I want to be in a movie. There were times in this game I was in a movie. Then I got to a loading screen and it ruined it. But for 10 minutes, I was in a movie.
Chris, I know you put this in your list. What are your thoughts on Gallery Episode 2, Heart of the Emberstone, and why it belongs in this discussion?
I mean, yeah, once again, it's just really great to have some narrative-based, story-driven experiences. I love those. Like you said, Anthony, I love being in a movie. I never really got too far in this game, unfortunately, but what I did play of it is really immersive. Like you said, the graphics are amazing, and like this is definitely one of the games I need to go back and finish. So yeah, just overall, that whole Gallery series, just having it be made for VR really makes it deserve a place on this list, I think.
Yep. Now, moving on, we are now at our number 3 PlayStation VR title, and that is being given to Farpoint. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about Farpoint. I ranked it pretty high. Farpoint is a first-person shooter, which, ironically, I don't feel like we have enough of them, particularly on the PlayStation VR. It's something that is such popular in mainstream gaming that I thought VR would find a way to put more of a focus on it. Since Farpoint came out, we know we have the Firewall Zero game, but one thing that makes Farpoint really stand out, though, is that it was bundled initially with the aim controller, and playing this game with the aim controller was one of those top experiences for me this year. It just felt so good, and having that controller and pulling it up closer to my face as I look down the sights to shoot at the crab-like aliens. And the game itself has pretty good value proposition. It's I want to say in the 5-ish hour ballpark, full campaign. They've recently released a free sort of multiplayer mode. There's some DLC for it. Overall, it's a very good game, and one of the key moments is you fight this giant spider crab looking thing that kind of comes out of a hole, and that's seen in the trailer, so it's not really spoilery. And that was one of the really big moments. Fighting that thing was flipping awesome. As far as I know, none of you guys have actually played Farpoint. Has anybody played it? Sounds like that's a no. So I
need to.
Yeah. But from what I understand, I totally meant to go through and play it, at least try it with a DualShock, and I never did. So I can't comment on if it's something anyone should pursue if they don't have an aim controller. The internet seems to say no, don't play Farpoint with a DualShock. Get the aim controller or don't play it at all for the most part. But moving on, our Oculus number 3 game is Arctica 1. Gary, you put a full playthrough of this game up on our channel, so let me know why Arctica 1 belongs in this list.
Well, you see, to me, it's difficult because, again, a lot of people won't agree with this because it's got node-based teleportation, and it turns a lot of people off immediately. And it sort of turns me away from it. It sort of dampens the experience a little bit for me. But as soon as I realise certain games like Wilson's Heart, Arctica 1 have been built around this, and they do it in a way where I get to a certain point in the game and I can't even imagine playing it with smooth locomotion. That's the crossover point for me. So Arctica 1 is a great shooter. It really is. And, you know, we've got Robo Recall to discuss in this shortly, but for me, Arctica 1 is the better game of the two, and it's not a popular opinion. I would say I'm definitely in the minority with that opinion, but I just like the node-based teleportation gives me the ability to move around and know that I've got some cover somewhere. Robo Recall is far more frantic for me. Arctica 1 gives me a more, I don't know, it's the kind of game player I am. I like having the ability to just have a bit of respite from all the frantic action, and Arctica 1 immediately gives you that. But the shooting feels great. You've got a lot of weapons. You can add these little additions onto each weapon as well, depending on how you choose to play the game. It's a little bit repetitive, and you know, it probably did go on a little bit long. And the final part, you know, again, I won't give any spoilers away or anything, but the final section, it was almost like, I guess, as it ended, it was sort of a little bit underwhelming, I suppose, the final part of the game. But overall, I think it's a great shooter and it feels great. That's the most important part for me in a shooter. I think it needs to feel good, and Arctica 1 fulfilled that. Absolutely.
You know, it's a game that I need to get back to. Like, this fall hit, and it wasn't that long after Arctica 1 that Skyrim came out, and then, you know, as we know, we had Doom and LA Noire and Fallout, and I you know, fully enjoyed my time with it, but I sort of felt compelled, like I had to go and play some other stuff for the podcast, and just because, you know, I've anticipated a lot of these other titles, but I enjoyed my time with Arctica 1, and it's like I didn't stop playing it because I didn't like it. I stopped playing it because I had other stuff to get to, and I fully intend, hopefully here this holidays, to get back to it. Chris, what are your
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Like, I really need to get back to this game too. Like, this show's just reminding me how many good games we had this year that we just didn't get to finish or whatever. So we had so many games. It's been crazy. But, you know, once again, there's kind of a narrative, at least in the beginning, and it just feels really good. It felt really natural. And I mean, I remember very clearly that elevator scene when there's like, that is this game, right? I hope it's this game. When there's like creatures crawling on the elevator, you're trying to shoot them, and like, I don't know, that's one of the, you know, few times that I have like a memory that sticks with me outside of VR, and I just remember that I'm like, geez, that was horrifying, and like, it's from this game, you know. So like, there's certain moments in this game where it's just stuff that you remember that sticks with you, and you know, it feels really good. The enemies are designed really good, and just it's really a great game once you get past the node-based teleportation of it.
Anthony?
Yeah, graphics. I mean, like this one here, Arctica 1, I said that Heart of the Emberstone had the best graphics. I also said Heart of the Emberstone had the best sound. Arctica 1 could compete with that in both of those categories. And it has this like Michael Bay-ness to it, really, where what it really is, it's a glorified shooting gallery is what it is, but it's a beautiful shooting gallery. And when you shoot those guns, you feel like you're shooting guns, you're dealing punishment, you feel powerful, you feel like a superhero almost when you're shooting everybody. And I mean, you really kind of are a superhero. You can probably take a million shots and you're just like shooting people in their shoulders and they're still alive. But it's an awesome game. Definitely worthy.
Yep. Now, moving on, we are going to shift to our biggest disappointment in VR this year. This is going to be interesting, I think. And we collectively chose, it wasn't unanimous, but we collectively chose that our biggest disappointment this year was Fallout 4 VR. Now, it's not to say that Fallout VR is a crap game and that no one should play it. It's really because this game had so much hype. Like we have been talking about this game for 18 plus months. It's kind of been billed and overhyped and said that, this is the game that VR is waiting for. This is the game that should bring VR to the masses. And it came out of the gate. If it was Usain Bolt at the Olympics and there was a hurdle relay that he was running, he fell over the first hurdle. Like right out of the gate, it was wrong. Lots of performance problems, lots of bugs, and it really, personally, me speaking, it hampered my like for the game. Like I was just really frustrated, and I know I talked about that on our episode last week. But I wasn't the only one that chose it as our most disappointing game of 2017. So, Chris, I'll send it back to you. Why did you put it down as your most disappointing game of 2017?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're lucky you have a 1080 Ti. I have a 980 over here, and like it's even worse. The performance issues are even worse over here. And it's just the fact that a company would release something like this unfinished, and like the fact that you can really just fix almost all of the performance problems, or at least make them drastically better with simple tweaks to the config files that really the company could have done. Bethesda could have done this already. They could have made sure that the INIs were the best optimized that they could be. And I think also it's just kind of the lack of options in the menus. Like you really do have to back out of VR and then edit these files like by hand and then load them back up into VR and see if you get lag. And I never got to 90 FPS. I've been at 45 this whole time, and it's hard. Like it's weird that you would release something without even testing some of these bugs or tweaking these INI files. So that's for me why it was the most disappointing.
Now, spoiler alert, Fallout 4 is going to be discussed again in the show, so we're not leaving it on a bad note. But Gary actually posted his INI files for me, and using the OpenVR input emulator, I'm actually not as disappointed in the game now, and it's working good. But Gary, I'm thankful to him because he put in a lot of legwork and a lot of discovery, and then I was able to just piggyback off of that. So I'm going to send it to Gary because you had to do all that legwork and you had to put in time to get this thing to look and run right. Why does Fallout 4 VR sort of fit the bill for disappointment?
Yeah, I struggled with this one actually because I didn't put this in initially as my most disappointing game, but then thinking about it more, it was always there. It was the one that first came to mind, but I thought I don't want to put it in my most disappointing games. So I changed it later on, but then I changed it to Fallout 4. That initial 2 days, those first 2 days of release, it was disappointing, and I can't get over that, and I want to sort of stay truthful to that. It has changed since then, but just having to go into doing all these config files, and one thing I want to mention, I mean, like the stars, like at night on this game, the stars are rendered incorrectly in VR. In the base game, the stars feel like they're about 3 feet away from your head, and the parallax of everything of the world around these stars just doesn't work right. You can correct this so easily. It's a single line in the config file that you need to do to correct this, and that points to how can it get past a release level game with that level, that such a simple fix remaining in there where they've simply not done it. And it points to the fact that it's not just that. That gives you then apprehension of going into this game and thinking, well, what else have they done that I'm not able to fix, that I'm not able to see, that I'm not able to go into and refine? And it's all of these connotations. So I had to put it as my disappointment. I'm going to get back to this, and I'll explain things later on to clarify my overall position on Fallout 4 VR. But that's why, for me, it has to be the most disappointing.
Alrighty, Anthony, do you have anything in relation to disappointment, or want to argue to the contrary of why it should not be considered a disappointment in any way?
Yeah, no, it definitely was a disappointment. I don't think there's any question about that. But I did not pick that game as my disappointment, but it's okay. We can go ahead and move on to the next category.
Okay. Our number 3 overall platform agnostic VR game is Robo Recall. We recently just mentioned it a couple minutes ago, and Robo Recall for me is I put it pretty high on the list because it's one of those games that just can appeal to just about anyone. It doesn't have a horror aspect. It doesn't have really anything that should stop someone from experiencing it, except for maybe a grandma or something that doesn't want to move around that much. Like, when I'm demoing VR to people, like Robo Recall makes the short list, and for that reason alone, I think it deserves to be on here. For me to, the game came out in March. For me to keep kind of going back to it 9 months later as demo material, as a reason, say, hey, you don't know VR, person, and here's what you don't know, and here's what you're missing. Check this game out. And Robo Recall, and people just, they're overwhelmed with being in this world and all the things that you can do with grabbing the bullets and ripping the robots' heads off and using their bodies as shields. There's so many mechanics that you can explore and do to kind of work your way through these levels, and that's sort of one of the few embodiments of almost perfect VR for me. Now the game is sort of short and it's sort of arcadey in the way it presents the levels. I'd rather have a more narrative driven Robo Recall. But that said, it's a fantastic game. Chris, I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah, just like you, I use this to demo a lot just because of how polished it is. And I'm going to probably come back to this with other titles in our list, but just the made for VR mechanics is really what sells this game for me. Like, whereas with Fallout 4, you have to kind of press a button to open a door or something. Like with this game, you just grab bullets out of the air. It feels so natural. The gestures are incredible. So I think that's really what does it for me. Like, you can pull apart robots with your hands. It's just that feeling of actually being there and actually manipulating the world and manipulating objects in the world, I think is really what sold it for me. I mean, not only that, but the graphics are fantastic. Like, it still looks amazing to this day. Like, there's nothing that's really, I could argue this has good graphics too. I don't know. There's a lot of games that came out with good graphics this year. But yeah, it's just the fact that I have people keep coming back to play this, people asking me if they can play more Robo Recall. That's why I had it on my list.
Yep, it does. You're right. Absolutely. I didn't even mention the graphics, but it also looks really damn good. Gary, what say you about Robo Recall?
Well, Robo Recall, I mean, it's a great game for VR. It really is. I can't argue that. I guess on my own personal list, I've sort of snubbed it in a way because it's one that most people would say it's in their top 5 games. And I was struggling with it. I didn't know whether to put it on my list or not, but there was... For some reason, it just doesn't appeal to me in the same way that certain other games do. And I can't even put my finger on why that would be, because it does everything right. The graphics look great. The interaction with the world is great. And it's a quick pick up and play arcade game, which is sometimes what you want in VR. Do I ever feel like playing that game above so many other games that I've got to play? Not really, unfortunately. So I guess it comes down, this more than any game on this list is a personal preference for me, where it just didn't appeal to me quite as much. I wish it did, and I can perfectly understand why it does appeal to so many people.
It's perfectly reasonable. Anthony, do you got anything to add about Robo Recall?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, like, if Robo Recall came out like November 15th, this could be my game of the year, because when Robo Recall came out, I was absolutely in love with it. And I still have fond memories of it. It's just, that was March, it's been a long time. And there is a recency bias. It's human nature. It's hard not to get around that. But I really think if Robo Recall just came out, this would be in the mix for me as game of the year. And I still ranked it real high. So.
Okay, moving on. Speaking of recency bias, our number two Steam VR game that we have collectively agreed on is Doom VFR. Now, this is a game that came out just a few weeks ago, and it's another one of those polarizing games. Like it released on PlayStation VR and on Steam, and it had a sort of it wasn't the same in both of those platforms. It was, a lot of people complained that the PlayStation version has smooth locomotion, whereas the PC version didn't. And I played it on PC. I actually played it on my Vive exclusively because there were some issues with the Rift, and the controls didn't work just right. So I put it pretty high because I thought it was a fantastic shooter. I thought graphically, I think maybe my second or third time, I think some of my settings finally took. I think maybe you have to reboot the game if you change some of the graphic settings. But when I went in there that second or third time, don't precisely remember which, but it just had stepped up and it just looked awesome. I turned the aliasing completely off because I was super sampling in Steam at 2.0 on my 1080 Ti, and it's another game that for me could sort of slot in there as best graphics, but overall gameplay, the weapon versatility, the sort of the rock music, the metal kind of crunching in your ear as you're going through blowing shit up. I just thought it was a really great experience. Gary, I know this is pretty high for you as well. Let me send it your way.
Yeah, so Doom VFR again. If the headline of this is sort of Steam VR top 5, Doom VFR is VR Roundtable's second on that list. I think a lot of people will have a few things to say about that, but I just love this game. There's so many problems with it, but I feel compelled to go in there, and it feels so good to play, even without the smooth locomotion, which, in all honesty, I think works on a parallel, from a personal point of view, works on a parallel to the teleport locomotion. I got just as much enjoyment out of playing the game with teleport as I do playing it with smooth locomotion. It's a different kind of game, and I guess the problem is, again, it comes back to expectation. Doom VFR, people want to go in there and feel like they're playing a Doom game in its entirety and with every little emotion that goes into playing that kind of game. Doom VFR probably won't give you exactly that, but it gives you a good approximation. And taking that aside, I think it's just a fantastic shooter. Not without problems, not without a lot of problems, actually, but I think it's great. I wanted to play it. As soon as I went in there for the first time, I wanted to play it, and I wanted to play it until I'd finished it. And even when I'd finished it, I started playing through it again. I've not finished it a second time yet, but sometimes I get the inclination to just go back into Doom VFR. It's that good for me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I wasn't inclined to play it a second time, but when I was working my way through it, I didn't want to play anything else. I'm going to skip a little bit because Doom VFR also wins our Best Shooter of the Year award. So instead of coming back to it, I'm going to keep it with Doom VFR for the moment. Chris, what is your thoughts on Doom VFR?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games, again, that, if I have people over, they always want to play it. Like, Doom has a great franchise in the past. People know Doom, and when they hear Doom is in VR, they all get excited about it. I just looked at the reviews, and right now it has a 59%. Like, I feel like that's a little harsh for this game. Like, it's still really good. Like you said, the graphics are incredible, and just overall the uniqueness of each enemy, all the different enemies that scattered throughout the game is really great. And I love playing fast-paced games every once in a while, so this really kind of played to that. But yeah, I mean, I should go back into this. There's too many games I got to go back into, but like, really, what a great design for VR shooter. Like, it has its flaws, obviously, but like, I don't know, there is something about it that makes you want to go back to play it, And I want to actually, I usually have my Rift set up, but this is one of those games that makes me want to get my Vive set up and move my computer to where my Vive is. So, I mean, that says a lot. Not many games do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that it is a polarizing. It's a lot of the games that we're talking about are polarizing. People really feel strongly one way or the other. And with this game, it was due to the locomotion method. And there were some people that I personally didn't try them, but there was some smooth locomotion patches and things like that. And I thought the game played fine as it is. I didn't feel compelled to start sort of futzing around with things and installing mods. Anthony, I know you may sort of bring us back and kind of balance VR Roundtable out, and I don't think you were as high on Doom VFR as the rest of us. What are your thoughts on whether or not this game should belong either as best shooter or just in our list in general?
Well, honestly, the honest truth of it is Doom VFR is one of these games that I've just decided to set off to the side. I need a new computer to be able to play Doom VFR, or I need like a Vive or something, because running it on my Rift, I just get stutter and judder, and I can kind of power through it, but it just isn't worth it. So this is kind of one of these games I'm setting off to the side, and I'll play it when I upgrade my video card. So unfortunately, that sucks, because what if next year in 2018 I end up playing through Doom VFR and it's like, oh man, this is the greatest game ever, but I didn't know it. But it is what it is.
Yep. So moving on, our number 2 PlayStation VR game is once again bringing it up. Done it once or twice this year, and that's Resident Evil 7. And look, if you followed the show, this is it. I'm gonna quit talking about that game. I'm gonna try to not mention it. I'm done with the woot woots. We're about to start into a new year, but damn, do I love me some Resident Evil 7. And again, I pretty much carried this by putting some of my top votes for Resident Evil 7. That's why it kind of drags into high representation in our list, because these guys haven't played it to the degree that I have. But man, I love it. I mentioned it a few minutes ago that it was like one of my all-time favorite gaming experiences, and that's because for me, like, I am really focused on ambiance and feeling, and I really don't focus on controls as much. In fact, the only time I focus on controls is when I can't do what I want to do, which is often the case, like playing Skyrim with the move controls when I'm trying to do something and I can't, or it causes a delay. I know I want to do something and I can't do it the instant I want to do it. So with Resident Evil 7, it fits and fits with me perfectly, because playing with a DualShock, I wasn't focused on controls. I could get lost in that world and only take in the what the game was giving me. Only take in that really wretched feeling of that house and the really wretched feeling of that family. And again, it was just me personally, like, there are few games that over the course of my life, I've been a gamer the bulk of my life, and I remember what it felt like to play Mario 64 for the first time. I remember what it felt like playing Asteroids for the first time, and when Resident Evil 7 struck with me in VR, never played it flat really, outside of just a few moments. It was like that, also the BioShock "Would You Kindly" moment. Like, there's just few of those really, really resonating things. And for me, Resident Evil 7 was magical. It's my favorite VR game all time. I gave it the scientific method by playing the DLC recently. I didn't play any of the DLC all year, and I held off knowing I wanted to wait till December to give it a go and see if it stood up, because since Resident Evil 7 we've had so many games come out, and it does. I still absolutely love this game. So my promise to the VR Roundtable audience is that I'm going to tamper it, and I'm not going to try to talk about this game again until they announce Resident Evil 8, and then it's no hope barred.
You will.
I'm going to go ahead and move on. Our Oculus number 2, or did I skip here? I guess I did. Pardons for a second. I lost my mind. I
think we're just at overall top 2 now.
Okay. Well, our overall top 2, pardons for kind of losing track there. Our overall top 2 is Fallout 4 VR. I'm going to send it to Anthony first, because I know he has lots of good things to say.
Yeah, well, for me on Fallout 4 VR, I mean, I don't know if I should spoil this now, but I mean, it was my number 1 pick. Fallout 4 VR is my game of the year, despite all of its freaking problems and all of its issues. The bottom line is, I've spent time in Fallout 4 VR that was more magical than any other time in any VR experience I've had to date. And that's just the simple truth of it. So even if, I mean, the average time I turn Fallout 4 VR on, I don't know if I'm going to have sound or not. So many times I do it, I don't have sound, and I have to redo it, and then I have sound. And I'm sure everybody out there is screaming, you must be doing something wrong, blah, 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 but whatever, it's happening, okay? But I still deal with it, because I get into this game and I'm exploring this world and the houses and just the combat. Really, it's the combat, people talking, people yelling at you, and people saying cuss words, and there's an interactive story that is going on while you're playing the game, while you're there, while you physically feel like you are there. I've played, just last night I was in the Corvega factory. I'm trying to take on the Corvega factory. It's being held by all these raiders, and it's basically like a raider stronghold. I did this on my Xbox One when Fallout 4 came out, and I played through that entire thing on my Xbox One. I'm playing it now. It is a completely different experience. It's like two different games because now I'm physically here. I'm physically opening the doors. I'm physically going down these hallways. I'm deciding, you know what? I got to stay right here, and I got to take some cover right here and peek around the corner. I can do that in Fallout 4 VR. If you asked me back when Fallout 3 came out, because Fallout 3 was the game that really, like, one of my favorite games of all time, period. Up there with Super Mario World is where I put Fallout 3. I played that on the Xbox 360. Then I bought a high-end PC and modded the hell out of that game and played it on PC. And if you could have told that person that I would be in this world of Fallout 4 and it would be raining and I would be going through a wasteland and there's this factory over there and I have to infiltrate that factory. I have to go through certain doors and I'm going to be fighting people, shooting at them, and they're going to be yelling at me and I'm going to feel like I'm in that world. If you told me that way back then, I wouldn't have believed you, but that's what's happened in just a short amount of time. I think Fallout 3 came out like 2008, right? So like 9 years later, I'm in that world. That is the dream. And despite all the problems and issues that it has, those 10 minutes of time when you're in that world and it's raining and it's overcast and the music is playing slowly in the background and the winds are whistling, tell me that doesn't kill everything. Sorry, this is number one, but that's just my personal take.
No, that's perfectly good. Now, to kind of keep it so we don't jump around too much, this is actually our number one SteamVR game as well. So I am going to send it to Gary. He was trying to jump in, but I just wanted to throw that it's multiple awards. Fallout 4 is a fantastic game. It can be disappointing and also great, and that's sort of, I think, where we are. So it is also our number one overall SteamVR game. So go ahead, Gary. You have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sort of rationalize this? It's my number one most disappointing game, and yeah, it's top of our list as well. And it was actually number two on my list, but I was incredibly close to putting this as my number one. I want to echo everything Anthony's said there because he's captured pretty much what I want to say. It's got its problems, but when you're in that world and you're playing through all of these little side quests and stuff, it just speaks to me more than most other VR games in that capacity, I would say. See, I've not experienced that kind of thing in VR before, where you're in this huge open world and you can go and talk to these NPCs. You've got agency, you've got things to do. You're not just there, and it's not like an open world where you're interacting with some people and you don't have any agency. Fallout 4 gives you agency. You have jobs to do. You've constantly being asked to do certain tasks and this kind of stuff. Now, my disappointment was the first couple of days. It took me a while to really dial in and get the experience I expected from the start. Once I got that experience, I was there. And I'm actually playing this on my Oculus Rift. I just feel it gives me a slightly clearer image overall. And now it's got all of these other fixes. You've got control fixes, so it works perfectly on the touch controllers. I've gone in, dialed in the graphics, so it runs really well and it looks really good. This is the game for me. I mean, honestly, this could very, very be my game of the year. The reason I've not gone for this as my overall number one, although it is our VR Roundtable number one for SteamVR, I will say that, I'll get to those reasons on the next game. But for me, this could very well be, if I play it for long enough and really get into that world, then this could sort of overtake it with hindsight, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Chris, what's your thoughts on Fallout 4 to date?
Yeah, well, it does keep getting better, like once you really dial in those settings. And I do want to play it on the Rift, just to kind of see how that works with the touch controller mod and all that. But, once again, it's just having that, yeah, like you said, Gary, having that agency and having that kind of story and having that underlying motive for why you're doing everything you're doing. And man, it was just great. Like the first intro 40 minutes or so, having getting to see kind of the narrative play out, and then getting thrown into this wasteland. Like it's really powerful, kind of. And I'm like, man, I hope this doesn't happen in real life, but you know what I mean. But yeah, no. So it's great. Like it's just, I never thought I would enjoy an open world game so much. I've never really played an open world game, and like, whereas all of you PSVR people have gotten Skyrim, this is really the first PC VR open world game. So that's why it's really so impactful. And yeah, it was also, pretty high on my list as well, and I'm looking forward to play it a lot. It's one of those games I want to keep coming back to playing again, so it says something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm pretty high on Fallout 4 as well. I think of the four of us, I'm probably the least high on it, but damn if it isn't a good game. Like it's I like the world, I think, better than, say, Skyrim. I'm still, not in love with the execution on PC VR. It's really the controls that I dislike. I have decided that I prefer playing it now on the Rift, and that I am using the OpenVR input emulator, I believe it's called. It's a mod that you can install, like OpenVR Advanced Settings, and basically what it does is the creator of that mod has added some abilities that kind of help this play well with Fallout 4, and it works pretty good. And in fact, I'm only playing it with the Rift and for the most part. I think I'd said last week that I thought in a lot of ways Skyrim VR looked better, and I stand by my statement with what I'd seen last week. Now, having used Gary's INI files and being able to play what I say is the more appropriate way, there's no way that Skyrim VR looks better than Fallout 4 VR. This game looks pretty damn good, and I have to say I'm getting very little reprojection now. So once again, kudos to Gary for doing that work. Overall,
kudos to everybody else in the community doing that work, because I've just followed their instructions, to be honest.
Well, that's very fair. I kind of followed your tails though, because we have a similarly spec'd rig, but it's just that world, like, it feels really good. Like the weapon play, everything about it is just really top notch, and knowing that it has such massive scale and massive scope, and that I can keep coming back to this and keep coming back to this, is really great. Like it's what can you say, really? Like it's big, it's awesome, it's what a game in VR should be like. The only thing, and it's kind of what tampers it for me, and it's why I had it as my number 5 game as opposed to number 1, was that I really find myself fighting the controls a lot. Like, I'm trying to do something, I'm getting attacked by the I forgot what they're called, the zombie-like creatures, and they're swarming
feral
me.
Ghouls.
Yeah, the feral ghouls, and they're swarming me, and I can't I can't switch to the weapon I want as fast and be as reactive, and it's not because I'm playing on the Rift. I have sort of the same problem on the Vive. It's just not as instantaneous. In Skyrim VR, when you pull up your favorites menu, the game pauses. So you can actually go, okay, I want to switch to this spell, and you don't have to worry about having your brains beat in while you're choosing your weapon or whatever. And I wish they kind of paused when they were doing it in this game. But that aside, I will get better with the controls, I'm sure. I've put maybe 4 hours into the game, and so far I'm really, really enjoying it now that sort of the dust has settled.
Can I say one more thing before we leave this, is that here's the thing about Fallout 4 VR, and in a similar way, Skyrim VR as well, is this kind of open world thing. Basically, all you have to do is give me a world like this and just keep trying to improve it. And honestly, I could let almost every other game fly off to the side, because this is the future. Can you imagine when a game like this, Fallout 4 VR, works absolutely flawlessly, and you're picking everything up with your hand, and you have inverse kinematics, and your body is in the game. I mean, this is the future, and this is a taste, and this is as close as we're going to get right now in 2017 to being inside like a movie-like world. That's what Fallout 4, I can go in there and I can almost play a role. I can pretend like I'm somebody in this world. My boots are on the ground. I have my gun. I'm there, you know? And oh, one other quick little thing is like these feral ghouls, right? There was this one part where I got to these train tracks, and you get swarmed by these feral ghouls at one point, and I feel like all of a sudden Fallout 4 VR just turned into Killing Floor Incursion. It turned into a horror game just like that, live in action, no pausing, no switching to a cinema. It turned into a horror game. These freaking feral ghouls were up in my face blazingly fast. I'm scrambling. I mean, I'm kind of scared a little bit. That was powerful. And that's just, and this is a wide open game that is going everywhere at all times. People are having conversations without you. I mean,
yeah, just one other thing as well on this. You see, part of me when I'm playing Skyrim and Fallout, actually, part of me thinks I should save this. I should save this game for 2 generations time of VR headset. I want to experience this world for the first time in a headset which gives me crystal clear visuals within this world. Part of me is feeling like when I'm playing through Skyrim today, I had this thought, actually. I was playing through the first section of Skyrim and I was thinking, do I want to progress with this, or do I want to wait to when Skyrim comes out on the PlayStation 5 with PSVR 2? And it's sort of irrational in some ways, but you know, this is the future. Anthony's right. This is the future of VR for me. It's not the future of VR for everybody because this is a single player game. And just one other point, you know, I think it was Jason Rubin was saying Skyrim's great, but we want to produce the built for ground up VR game MMO, and that's sort of missing the point for me. Skyrim isn't an MMO. It's a single player role playing game that you can go in and experience. I mean, I'd love an MMO as well, but it's sort of having 2 disparate games for me. So I think he's missing the point of Skyrim in that statement.
Yeah. Moving on to the next, we have an award for our biggest surprise, and what we mean by that, it's a game that we, you know, unlike Fallout 4 that had been on our radar for a long time. This was a game that kind of came out of nowhere, and we were all pleasantly surprised, sort of taken aback by how much we enjoyed the game. And collectively, we have agreed, it's not unanimous, but the bulk of us have agreed that belongs to Zing: The Land Beyond. Anthony, tell us about Zing and why it was your biggest surprise. We've already talked about it, but why is it the biggest surprise?
Yeah, well, the first time when you hit me with Zing at the very beginning of the show, I actually was not ready to be talking yet, and you caught me off guard there, so I probably didn't do a very good job of talking about it. But the thing about Zing, every once in a while, you'll get a game that you can put that game on, and that game when you're done, you're in a better mood than when you started. And for me, that's Zing: The Land Beyond. And I don't know if it's the graphics, if it's the music, if it's the inspirational kind of like words from above or from the universe that come to you through these fountains. You know, there's almost like a spiritualness to it. And I'm not a spiritual guy. I'm not trying to go down that road, but there's something very peaceful about this game and uplifting. The music, and it's the day-night cycle. I mean, that's something that Steve spoke about earlier, is like when you go to the nighttime world, it's almost like a totally different world. You can only solve certain puzzles at night. It's a different kind of a world, the way it's lit up, the graphics. And then you go to daytime and you're in this beautiful, lush paradise island that you're exploring of some ancient civilization that is now gone, but they've left this information for you. They've left this guidance for you. And the puzzles are really good. At first, they're really easy, but they've gotten really hard already. I'm already banging my head on some of these puzzles, but I just love the world. I love the vibe. And this White Lotus Interactive, this isn't a $39.99 game either. This game, I believe, was $19.99 from the very beginning. So much love. I mean, this is a game that should be in people's top 5 overalls, really.
Yeah, for me, I think it fits as big a surprise because it was in fact a surprise, and it was a surprise because almost no one was talking about it at all. Like I had heard that the game was announced and that they were working with it in VR. I believe it was a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe or something like that. Pardons if I have my information correct, but it's you can play it in not in VR, so it's on the PlayStation, it's on PC, and it's on VR. It's not on PlayStation VR, and I'm not sure in the moment if they are looking to bring it to PlayStation VR, but it really it wasn't being talked about at the time that it come out. It was like wasn't really in the discussion, and then it was like, okay, yep, this game is now available. Go check it out. And I was like, holy crap! Like this game was a surprise. Like I knew nothing of it. The Upload VR, Road to VR, those places really weren't talking about it, and it lived up to being a surprise. It was out of nowhere. Gary, do you have anything to say in relation to it being a surprise?
Not too much, no. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was a Kickstarter, and people had been following it. I think they had a demo actually on the DK1 days for the Oculus Rift. So this was going back a long time. It was sort of a very early days kind of demo that they had back then. But this game, yeah, for me, it came out of nowhere because I didn't really know too much about it. But then people started talking about it. Although even then, when it first came out, they were talking about it, but not to any great extent. And when I went in there, I thought, why are more people talking about this? Because for me, you go into that world and it makes you feel good. It's a relaxing game. You can progress at your own pace. You're doing these at the beginning, you're doing these very simple puzzles, which ease you into this world, and then it hits you with quite a hard puzzle, actually. But yeah, I mean, definitely unexpected because it came out of nowhere, and it's made it into my personal list as well as the overall. So yeah, I mean, this is great.
Yep. Okay, and we have another category award for the best non-game, and foolishly, I listed Google Earth because it is the best non-game, I think, but it came out in 2016, and it doesn't count because this is not 2016 anymore. So I went back and changed it, and I actually took some influence from Chris, so I'm gonna send it to him. But we had called it for Riftcore 2.0. So Chris, tell us why Riftcore 2.0 is the best non-game this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really the best design for VR interface that we have so far, just in terms of interfacing with, in terms of Oculus Dash interfacing with our desktops, and then also on the Oculus Home side, just kind of decorating your own house and kind of making your own personal space in VR. Like, this is something we've seen in SteamVR for a while, but just the amount of polish Oculus tries to put into everything they release, like, it really shows and really makes it stand out. And I haven't really gotten to, customize my house too much or anything, but I know the creations can be ridiculous and they're planning to add more functionality. And this is just that kind of initial platform thing that's really exciting to think about, because like you can think about when Oculus Home then you can have people come to your house and you can visit other people and have parties. And like, this is kind of the grounds of, the future of like the metaverse, where you can go to different people's places and explore and launch into games together. This is basically the start of that. So, I mean, that's why I personally had it as my best non-game. But what do you think about it?
It's pretty much everything you listed. Like, I think having that functionality, that's been one of our sort of complaints. I know that when I was playing Wilson's Heart, if I had Dash, I would have had like maybe a playthrough kind of locked and loaded on a YouTube channel or something that I could refer to without getting out of the headset. And also in futzing around with Fallout 4, I actually had the instructions. So when you're using the OpenVR input emulator, you have to, it's not saving profiles right now. I guess it's broken or it needs to be added. So each time I launch Fallout 4, I have to go in and kind of assign the controls. And so I have those instructions up because I keep forgetting what to do. And I had those instructions up, and with Dash, I was able to pull it up, boom, right there. Don't have to come out of the headset. So that has tremendous utility. It's probably more fitting. We called it non-game, but if this was like a best utility award, this would sort of fit in there with that. Gary or Anthony, do you want to throw anything in here?
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to say, I wish we could have had like a top 5 non-games, because there's a lot of things that deserve to get a little bit of recognition. Like, I'll just mention a couple things real quick. Mayubi. Do you guys remember Mayubi?
Oh
How
my
cool
God,
that
yeah.
was? Do you guys remember Blade Runner 2049? I thought that experience was really cool. And Dispatch. I think Dispatch is an awesome, awesome experience. But my actual vote for this non-game category, I went with The Invisible Hours by Tequila Works, which I really believe, and this is, I think it's still on sale for half price right now, 15 bucks. The Invisible Hours is the first VR movie, period. This is going to be one of the future ways that people do storytelling. What they're going to do, instead of having a movie about a story, it's going to be a movie about a location. And you're going to go to a location and you're going to be able to move around that location and see different things happening, not being able to see everything. You can only be in one place at one time. But that's going to be the way stories are told in the future. And I think The Invisible Hours, incredibly awesome. It gives us a glimpse of this, maybe a little too expensive at 30 bucks, but now that it's 15, highly recommended.
Yeah, I think I really love the idea of Invisible Hours, and I know I've said it before, but I may have voted for it. It may have kind of sort of entered my mind when we were pulling our votes together to cast one for Invisible Hours if I had played it on PC VR. When I played it on PlayStation VR, maybe I should go back to it. Maybe they've released a pro patch or something, but it was so blurry. And I can deal with some blurry. I mean, I dealt with Fallout 4 in its release week, and I also dealt with Skyrim. But it was an additional notch blurry that just kind of, I couldn't get roped into the experience because I was constantly distracted by that. But the mechanics and what the game does, I think, is super interesting. I really, really like the idea. I love everything about the Invisible Hours other than the runtime resolution, and it's probably not that way on PC VR, so I need to give it a go either there on my Rift Vive or something, or go back to it in PlayStation VR. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
Just quickly, because Riftcore 2.0, I did consider that for this category before I put my vote in. And I guess, it really is for me as well. I put in Aircar. Now, for me, Aircar, it's a very short, free experience, but Aircar is just so immersive, and to me it's more like the potential of what they've achieved in there more than the actual experience itself. It just makes you think of the power of VR more than a lot of other experiences, certainly a lot more than free experiences. I've got a few honorable mentions of games and experiences at the end of this show, just very briefly anyway, so I'll get into a few more of those, but I will concur, best non-game overall for me, Riftcore 2.0 is, I think it's the right choice overall for us, because for me, I've used it in exactly the same way that Steve was mentioning earlier, about like the control files for Fallout 4. And just before we get any comments, we know that this guy Matsman, he has released a new version. So Steve, you can now save profiles in Fallout 4 as well. So it's made it perfect. Just to let you know on that. But
thank you, Matsman.
Yeah, Riftcore 2.0 is a worthy winner of this category in my mind.
Alrighty. Well, moving on, our number one PlayStation VR game, and we've already talked about it, and that's kind of the rub, doing a sort of a countdown reveal, but that is Skyrim VR. Skyrim VR, try not to repeat myself, what it means to VR. It is a game for the masses. It is a game that is incredibly popular. It is a game to critique. Bethesda has released on every, you can probably get it on BlackBerry now. I'm not sure. But they keep releasing this game. They keep releasing this game, and people keep buying it because it's a good game. I had it pretty high. I didn't have it as my number one. You guys know what my number one PlayStation game was. But I think everyone else listed it as their number one, and deservedly so. I don't disagree with anybody, really. It brings a lot. It's good for VR. It's good for the market, and that's why it deserves to be number one in my book. It had people talking about it. It had people excited. It has, I don't know if I've seen numbers, but it has to be one of the most played PlayStation VR games, and for that, and for the improvement and the attention that it brings to the VR category. I think it's fantastic. Anthony, do you have anything to add to Skyrim VR that you haven't mentioned already?
Just really quickly, the thing about, I said that Skyrim VR missed my number one game by that much, and the number one game was Fallout 4 VR. And the only reason Skyrim VR is actually better than Fallout 4 VR in a number of ways. I just like post-apocalyptic worlds. I love it. I love post-apocalyptic worlds. So Fallout is just like catnip as far as that's concerned. But Skyrim does all those same things I'm talking about. And going forward, I'm telling you, we're always going to have one of these games. Just keep making them better and better, make them look better, make them more interactive. But Skyrim on PSVR, there's villagers. They're talking to each other. They're having conversations. It's the same thing we got in Fallout 4. And when you're approaching a new castle, this is like a physical location that you now have to deal with. You never thought of it in the physical kind of way where your boots are on the ground. You're there. I mean, this is the future of VR.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, in talking about Fallout and Skyrim and the game that I said I wasn't going to mention anymore, like, this shows that in a way you can do both. Like, you know, we tend to think of things like, oh, that's a built for VR only game, or that's a not a VR game and they have issues porting it. There are clear signs that this is a port. But when they do the next Elder Scrolls game, when they do the next Fallout, they can make it both. And I think Resident Evil showed that. Like, you can make a game from the ground up that has VR in the consideration, that knows that it needs to play in VR, but can also be a flat game. And I think that's what it's going to take to move the industry forward. I think that's, in a way, what it's going to take to get to 10 million VR headsets sold, to get to the fact that VR's for gamers is a commonplace thing, is for a period of time. You have the next big game. You know, Fallout 5 is announced next year, and it's coming to PlayStation, Xbox, PC, also PlayStation VR, also Oculus Rift, also SteamVR. Like it can come to all of those things, and these games, these ports, which were built never with VR in mind, show that they work enough that if they were to build a flat game and a VR game alongside each other, they would be even better. So moving on, our Oculus, I'm going to announce them at the same time. Our number one Oculus Rift game and our number one overall game goes to Lone Echo. I'm going to send it to Chris. He's clapping. Chris, tell us about Lone Echo and why it deserves to be number one overall.
All right, sure. Well, you know, this game, I don't know, it's never gotten the attention it deserves, and that's really the sad part about it, because this game is really well done, and the narrative is incredible, and just the environments, and really it comes down to the fact that this was made for VR, and the controls are probably the best controls I've ever had on a VR game, as well as the movement, the locomotion method. So this game just felt so real, and it was just so immersive, because like you actually physically would touch things on your body, like you'd touch your wrist, you'd touch your head to turn on the flashlight. Just things like that is really innovative, things that haven't been seen before. And you know, same with the whole dying mechanic. Like you would die, and then you'd see your body floating around in zero gravity after you died, and it's just those kinds of things that have been iterated on so many times. You can tell like Ready at Dawn worked so hard to make these controls the best that they could possibly be, and just like no game comes close to them, in my opinion. So I mean, that's really it for me, is just how good this feels, as well as how they actually solved a locomotion method. Like they solved zero gravity. Like, you know, we never thought locomotion could be fully solved like as good as this, because it has, you know, free locomotion, but also people don't get motion sick. Like it's really magical. So I don't know, that's for me why it's the number one Oculus game, as well as just the number one overall game of the year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I think we said that, you know, months ago when we were talking about Lone Echo, they solved locomotion. Unfortunately, they solved it only for zero gravity games. Their method can't be applied to the industry as a whole. But man, yeah, I really, really also enjoyed Lone Echo. It was my number two overall game. It's it checks all the boxes, right? Like and I keep talking about that, and it's very repetitive, and I apologize for being repetitive, but it checks the graphics box, it checks the narrative box, it checks the presence, the overall ambiance and feeling that they give you. You feel dread when you need to. You feel urgency. You know, everyone knows that scene when Olivia's foot is trapped outside the ship and you got to free her. I distinctly remember feeling frantic and getting my torch out and trying to free her foot. Like there probably really was no urgency there. Like it's a game. Like it would probably just stay there until I freed her. But yet I was still frantic and trying to get her foot free as quick as I could. Another standout moment, like when I go on vacation stuff, if I go somewhere tropical, I love to scuba dive. In fact, my username on most services is Scuba Steve, and I love to scuba dive. And there's when you're underwater scuba diving, you can control your buoyancy by taking in a big breath of air and exhausting a lot of air, and you can kind of float up and down. In Lone Echo, towards the end, when you're kind of navigating a corridor that has been fully filled with that biomass that will like suck your face if you get too close to it, I felt some of those same feelings of scuba diving. Like I was slowly jettisoning myself in that tight corridor, and I was controlling my buoyancy in a vertical sense. I was going up and down, and it had all the particle effects of those particles that were all in the air, and it was just it was one of those memorable feelings. I know, Gary, you did a deep dive way back on establishing memories in VR and feeling like they're valid memories, like you would if you had experienced it in actual reality. And that was one of those moments for me. I don't have a huge handful of them in VR to that degree, but Lone Echo gave me one of the best ones, and for that, like I won't forget it. Like it was a really, really good game.
Yeah. Lone Echo for me. I mean, I'm not too sure if it didn't get the recognition it deserved, because a lot of people were talking about it. However, I will say I think it got overshadowed by the multiplayer. Everybody was talking about Echo Arena rather than Lone Echo, the single player narrative game that was released. So I guess in that respect, it did get ignored. And I think, yeah, Lone Echo was my number one game of the year. Very, very close was Fallout 4 VR. And the reason I ended up going for Lone Echo was simply how present I felt within that world, rather than how present I feel within Fallout 4 in terms of interaction. And this comes from, as we all know, it comes from the fact that the Lone Echo was built with VR in mind. It was built with motion controllers and interaction. It plays a key role within that game more than it does within Fallout 4. Now, let me just say that, as I said, sort of alluded to earlier, 3 months down the line, having played Fallout 4 VR a lot more, I could very easily change my mind, because it was a very close call on this. But I want to recognize Lone Echo in this year, because it was the standout VR title for me at this present time. It did so many things well. And, I think the graphics play a part of your feeling within that world, because the graphics are fantastic, and also the interaction that it gets you to do. You're manipulating things with your hands so often. You've got these things on your wrist that you can adjust and dial in using your finger pointing method on the Oculus Rift controller, and all of this stuff, it just makes you feel more present within that world. But yeah, Lone Echo, for me, it's a worthy winner. It was very close for Fallout 4 VR, so I just want to make that clear from my point of view. But Lone Echo, I'm pleased it got to number one.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I put Lone Echo fourth on my list, but that is no slight to Lone Echo. Every single game in my top 5, I feel, could stand up as number one all by itself. We were blessed this year. I mean, there's like 20, 30 games that you could mention as really, really great games this year. So we've been very blessed as far as that. The thing I'll say about Lone Echo is, I've talked about this as well, where, I want to be in a movie. This is something I've always said, like, my dream for video games long term is, I don't want to sit down and watch a movie. I want to be inside the movie. And that's where we're going, right? And I talked about how Fallout 4 can make me feel like that. Well, Lone Echo does an even better job of that, but it does it in a smaller, confined, more specific area with not as many characters and stuff. So I look at those two things differently. But if I'm just purely wanting to be in a movie, Lone Echo is absolutely the best of all of them. The immersion level is so strong that my number one horror experience this year, like the most freaked out I ever have been in any VR game, was actually Lone Echo. It was the first time I got too close to the biomass and it went, and it freaking grabs your arms or whatever it does. That freaked me the hell out like you wouldn't believe. And the reason why I was so freaked out is because you're so immersed in the world. If you were suspended on some type of contraption where you're kind of free floating and you could play Lone Echo, and when you're grabbing the sides of walls and stuff, if maybe the force feedback was like a lot stronger and you had like gloves that provided force feedback, you could just have the game of Lone Echo, but just add these two little elements to it. You could almost lose yourself in that and think that you're somewhere else. There were times I was playing this and like dinner was ready 20 minutes ago and I just never heard anything because I was just in Lone Echo.
I put my wife in Lone Echo from the very beginning, and I kid you not, she doesn't play a ton of VR. She's not really a gamer per se, but I would say if I had to say how much VR she's played since I've had VR, it's probably been in the ballpark of 20 to 25 hours total in the year and a half or so. She played Lone Echo for 3 hours, did not come out of the headset. Like, and that speaks to what this game does. Like, if it can pull someone who's not really a gamer and get them inside a headset for 3 hours, that's pretty damn impressive. All right, guys, that's it. That's our number one overall game. We came in at hour 40, a little bit shorter than usual. So, does anybody have anything they want to add?
I just want to add a few honourable mentions into this list. The first one for me is Unnightly. Now, you talk about recency bias. This is one that I only played sort of last week for the first time. Unnightly, I was very tempted to put this on one of my lists, actually, because it just hit me so hard. Unnightly is the game that I discussed in last week's episode, where it's basically Thief within VR. And I'm just having a great time in there. Again, I've not put anywhere close to the amount of time I want to put in there. From first impressions, it looks like it could be one of these games where it has very similar environments all the way through, and that's a little bit concerning. But overall, the gameplay itself is just so good. You really do feel like you're in this world and you're stealthing around all these levels. So yeah, I want to mention that. Also, for me, Payday 2, again, recency bias. It's a good game. I'm not sure it's my kind of game overall, but it's a good game. LA Noire, this hasn't appeared anywhere on our list either, but I haven't spent enough time in there to really say anything else. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to mention those three, really. That's all.
Could I do three quick ones?
Well, let's do this. Hey, and let's do this. Okay. Let's do our top five. Like, I think they'll kind of shake out and match what we've done, but just kind of give our audience a little bit of that clarity. Let's just do our top five. Anthony, you go first.
Top five ones that we want to mention, or?
Well, I was thinking just what we actually listed, our overall top five personally.
Well, I mean, all those I've talked about already. I just want to mention three games that haven't been mentioned at all in this show that I really feel like they should be mentioned. I think we just give some quick little honorable mentions.
Okay.
To the Top. To the Top is a fantastic game, and it's too bad that didn't get mentioned. Oregon Quarter has terrible combat, but everything else is marvelous. Incredible horror game. As much as I love Resident Evil 7, I actually think Oregon Quarter is a better horror game. Resident Evil 7 is a better game, but Oregon Quarter, the atmosphere, just love that. And Archangel, that's one other one I want to mention. It's on rails, but I just love the story. I love the voiceover. I love the production quality. Just wanted to mention those three, and I'm good. Okay.
Chris, you got any honorable mentions that we didn't get to?
I don't know. I always try to think of them, and then I realized they all came out in 2016. But man, a lot of these old games just kind of keep getting updated, and it's great. You could mention something like Rec Room or even Google Earth. Just like the fact that they keep getting constant updates really makes them relevant today. People still play all those games today. So I think we could just mention that, Rec Room still gets a lot of updates. It's really fun multiplayer game. And then also just Google Earth has like Street View, and now you can walk throughout the streets while you're in VR basically. So there's things like that keep getting updates, which is really exciting. It's really, really cool.
Okay. If I had to come up with something, and we are unprepared for this, or at least I am, I would kind of mention duck season. Like I remember having a feeling that the game wasn't perfect in any way, and it had a sort of a weird value proposition, but it also had this really cool, like the dichotomy between the being in the kid in the living room with playing the console on the floor, and then the whole like the dog, which is some meth head in a suit that goes crazy on you and comes in and murders your mom and you, like that sort of, like, those are two things that you wouldn't normally put together in a game, but somehow they did. So that was one of the things that stood out. But Dimension Hunter, it was a quick, cheap arcadey game that I don't know why I couldn't tell you specifically what it was, but for some reason it resonated with me. And when I played that game, I just felt good. Like, it was the music, and it seemed to be sort of timed with the level, like as you would just kind of just bop and flow through the level. It was really cool, and it had a really cool visual aesthetic. So I'm struggling in the moment to kind of come up with a third that we haven't already talked about. So I won't.
Let me just mention one other then, just while I've got this gap. Carnage Chronicles, I did want to mention that as well, because that is a great little RPG type game with some, the combat's not great in it, but I think they're working on getting that better. But overall, the mechanics of the game are fantastic, and it's a good world to be in as well.
Hey, what about Gorn? Remember
Chris, you missed your opportunity.
Damn, yeah. I could talk about Gorn. I think it's just great because it's arcadey and it's fun, and it's something that I demo to people. People like to play Gorn. It's just gets out the frustration. You can rip apart these giant guys, and there's blood everywhere. It's really fun, really arcadey. All the weapons kind of have this elasticity to them, so it's really goofy. But it was a really fun game, and it kind of came out of nowhere for me, at least. Like, yeah, it was good. It's a good game.
I played it last night actually, because I'd forgot about it until you put it somewhere. You put it somewhere on the list for you. But yeah, I mean, I hadn't played that since it was released. Really, I played it last night, and I actually hit the wall. I punched the wall, so I've got a little bit of an injury. So I've got you to thank for that, Chris. I blame you.
Oh no, don't sue me.
Let's do another sort of list on the spot. And so again, we're unprepared for it. At least I am. But what about games you're most looking forward to? Like, we've crossed off the game that everyone's been most looking forward to for the longest time ever with Fallout 4. So now that has come, what is the game you're looking most forward to, or the three or so games that you're looking most forward to that aren't out yet? Put it this way, your early 2018 GOTY list.
Do you know what? This is really tough. I think anticipation for Fallout 4 and these Bethesda titles has been so high that I've not got one offhand. I am thinking, and this isn't one that probably most people will go to, but for me, I'm actually quite looking forward to Ace Combat 7 on the PSVR. Not many people mention this title, but I want a good flight simulator that is sort of you don't have to learn all of these intricacies of actually learning how to fly a plane. I want to just jump in and experience that kind of game in VR. And I think Ace Combat 7 will give me that. So that's the one that jumps out to me immediately.
Cool. Well, I'll have three. And I think, and maybe it's because of Fallout and everything, that I can't really think of anything on the PC VR front that has really been announced that we know is coming. Like, I'm drawing a blank in the moment. But PlayStation, they've done a really good job. Sony has done a really good job of the recent shows of announcing stuff for next year. So I'm going to pull off three games. The Impatient. Absolutely loved Until Dawn. Absolutely loved Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. I'm really, really looking forward to The Impatient. I'm not going to make any serious bets that it's going to be GOTY contender next year. But of the games I know about, it's probably the most anticipated and could be the best one. Moss. I'm really looking forward to Moss. That demo played really, really well. And then also Star Child. So those are three PlayStation VR games. And again, it's because Sony has kind of gone out in front and done their a lot of their announcing. Whereas Oculus, this 2017 was the year of Oculus, and they haven't really talked about 2018. I don't know if the funding well is drying up, or if they're gonna keep funding these games. And then for Steam, all we know about are the Half-Life 2 mod that's kind of coming to my mind, and then of course the unannounced Valve games, which no one knows what, when, or if they'll ever really happen.
Yeah, I could mention Echo Combat is going to come out in 2018. I don't really know how good that's going to be, but I'm just excited to see what they do with that. Like a FPS style Echo Arena could be cool. And who knows if the Lone Echo sequel or DLC will come out next year, but it's a possibility. So we could look forward to that.
My top 3, I would go with Blood and Truth, which is coming to PlayStation VR. That one is... See, London Heights from PlayStation VR Worlds, that's a 2016 release, so we can't really rank that in any of these categories. But London Heist, Gary, I don't know if you've played it yet, but man, that is really good. You'll have to grab...
Do you need move controllers to play that one, or can you play it with just a
The London Heist, you want move controllers.
Wait till you get move control. I don't know if you absolutely need it, but wait till you get them.
Okay.
That's my number one, because this is London Studio, and when they did London Heist, it was just like a short little thing, but this is a full-blown game. So it's basically like Sony said, look, we like what you did with London Heist. Can you make a full game like that? They said, yeah. And that's what's coming probably third quarter of next year. So we're probably going to have to wait a little while. Budget cuts, we all forget about budget cuts. Budget cuts supposedly, I think, second quarter 2018. Still looking forward to that. I know a lot of the hype has kind of slipped out of there, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Half-Life 2 VR mod. I'm really excited about this. I would love to play this. I'm kind of a retro guy. I don't need to have the greatest graphics. If you can put me in that world, I would love it. But I'm kind of wondering, like in the back of my mind, does Valve have some secret plan for something? Is that why this game isn't out there yet? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting. So the way too early 2018 most disappointing game right now, budget cuts. We'll see if we stick to that prediction, but I just have no confidence that game is going to deliver what they think it will. Like either it'll be like what we already have, which may be underwhelming now, a year and a half later of room scale, or they'll go in some other completely different direction and not succeed. So, but it's just a prediction. I don't know anything. Like it could be the best thing since sliced bread when it comes out, but my prediction now.
They've been taken under Valve's wing a little bit as well, haven't they? Is it Neat Corp, I think, who do budget cuts? So they're sort of working, I guess, in some ways with Valve. And although I've got the same hesitation as you, Steve, they could either stick to what they did in that demo, and that would be sort of underwhelming, or they could change it a little bit, and people will be disappointed with the change.
Hey, Gary, you know what? They learned Valve time from Valve. So the game is never going to come out now. They got too influenced by Valve.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's gonna go ahead and wrap up this Game of the Year episode of VR Roundtable. We have decided that we are going to take the next week off. We are going to spend the time with our families and all that, enjoy the holidays. So there will not be an episode coming out next week, but we look forward to getting back in early January, catching up on the news that we've missed. Somehow, all the Magic Leap stuff, like we're not getting to it. We're gonna hold it, so it might be old news by the time we get to it. But we'll see you guys again in January. Do you have anything to add, fellas?
No, that's all great. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, looking forward to CES. We'll definitely be talking about that.
Oh yeah, that'll be exciting. Knuckles, maybe. All right.
Happy holidays, everybody. Bye.
Bye.